What's going on? We are back with another high ticket sales role play. We have a completely different offer. I'm looking forward to diving into this. We are going to go through how to run a perfect discovery for a high ticket sales call for a dog trainer that wants to run a dog training business. Maybe they've already set it up and they want to turn it into a fully fledged business, scale it, lead gen, sales, all of that. Or maybe it's a business owner that wants to get into running a dog training business, and that is something they have as a passion, and they now want to turn it into a way to make money and live the life that they want to live. So in this training, we're going to go through all of the subtle nuances of the discovery. How do you need to show up? How do you need to ask questions to go deeper? How do you need to understand human beings to truly sell them without objections, without follow-up, and without not making the money that you truly want to be making? So without any further ado, Jay, kick us off with your opening question.
So, Alex, in your opinion, what is the biggest challenge you're having in your dog training business right now?
Good question. I think it's knowing when the right time is to go full time with this.
Hmm.
I'm really struggling with the confidence side of things. Knowing to know if this will work or not.
Hmm. Makes sense. So right now you're doing this part-time and you want to know when the right time would be to take this into a full-time job, but right now you're missing the confidence.
Yeah, I mean, I want it to be my full-time role. I've completed a lot of training in this space since the COVID years, really. And at the start, it was going really well. I had a lot of people that I knew that needed help with their dogs, and they see me with my dogs, and they want that. So it was quite easy. But lately, it's not been that way. It's been really difficult.
Hmm. How long have you actually been in business?
I did my first course in the COVID years in those lockdowns, and coming out of COVID is when I set the business up and basically was working 2 days after work in the week, and then I was putting a Saturday aside as well. And those days were really busy. Things were looking great. The cash
Mhm.
was building, but it quickly turned into more of a grind.
How so?
I mean, the passion's still there for what I want to do. I'm still really interested in this space, but I, I don't know how to get leads, and it feels like or I have been previously wasting money, and I don't want to do that anymore in terms of trying to find people to talk to.
Uh-huh. Well, how were you previously getting leads in the past when it was busy?
Okay,
I
good
have a
questions, Jay.
friend.
Pause. Good questions. At this point, we're going to start leaning too far into the past.
Okay.
They were good questions because they were relevant to dig into what he said. But bear in mind on a sales call, you've got limited time. You've got 20 to 40 minutes to run a discovery. 40 is pushing it.
Hmm.
And we really need to know what's going on right now.
Okay.
I get that he said, it was better in the past, it was worse in the past, blah, blah, blah. We kind of want to know the differences. But right now, I just want to know what has he got going on with the business today?
Okay.
And then what has he got going on as far as how else is he making money? Focus a little bit more on the present. Okay.
Hmm.
Keep going.
Okay. So I'm curious, what are you doing right now to get more customers for your business?
I've got ads in a local paper that goes around in our area. So I used to have ads on social media, and I was getting customers from all over the city, where now it's just focusing on the around where I live. So there's not much travel, but yeah, I may be getting three, four, five people to talk to a week.
Okay. How many people have you talked to in this last week?
Last week's been good. Last week I'd say it's been about five or six.
Okay. And how many of those people actually turned into paying clients?
None.
Okay. Why do you think those people didn't invest in your program?
Good question, Jay. Is there a higher level question that would be more of a real conversation and also starting to lean on the challenging of the prospect based on what he said a moment ago and then based on the information that he's just given you now? What did he say
Mm.
to the previous question when you said
He said
how?
it's going pretty good.
Okay, and so what are you thinking when he then says, "Well, I didn't make any sales"?
Well, if you haven't made any sales in the last week, then I guess why would you call that a good week?
Much better. Keep going.
I re-asked that. Okay, well, if none of those people actually converted to clients in the past week, I'm curious on why you said that it was a good week.
Mainly because I've had more people to talk to. It has been quite sporadic in terms of how many people come forward each week. I would say that, okay, maybe five or six that I've spoken to, but there's been a number of conversations with, so even though it's five or six people, there may be 15 or 20 conversations out of that with those people.
15 or 20 conversations over what time period?
I'd say over a week with trying to see these people and try and get them into paying clients.
Okay. So is it 15 to 20 clients over the last week, or was it five or six?
It's five or six, but I've spoken to them numerous times.
Okay. Makes sense. I'm a little bit stuck, Josh.
Well, good, brother. No worries. I'm going to go right back to the start and I'm going to do basically what you were doing, which was good. And the main reason I'm going to go to the start is to show you the pace. Okay.
Okay.
So be the same prospect, Alex. Good stuff, though, Jay.
Yeah.
You were going where you needed to go. All right. So, in your opinion, Alex, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you're having with your dog training business right now?
Trying to find enough people to talk to.
Okay. Say a couple of the things that you said before. You said confidence, knowing it will work, and I want to go
Okay.
full time, just so that we're following
Yeah.
roughly the same. All right,
Yeah.
just respond to that.
Yeah. Um, it's I'm wanting to go full time, but I don't
Okay.
really have the confidence at the moment that it can work.
Okay. So you want this to be your full time business, but you're not confident that the business could work or that you know how to make it work. Is that accurate?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of how the business is working right now, in the last 30 days, how much money did you make from your dog training business?
Oh, 30 days. I'd say maybe about 2,000, somewhere around there.
Okay, somewhere around $2,000. And you want this to go full time, so that's kind of your goal. So how much do you need to be making consistently with confidence to be able to go full time in this?
Oh, it really needs to be 10 to 15,000, somewhere in that bracket there.
Okay, got it. So you need to 5 to 7.5x what you're doing right now. Okay, got it.
Yeah, correct.
All right. So those 2,000 or that $2,000 in the last 30 days, how many customers was that you got in the last 30 days?
There's a number of people that I've seen multiple times there,
Okay.
but I'd say within there was probably a total of eight customers.
Okay, got it. So 8 customers. And when you say multiple times, what do you mean by that? As in you're charging them more than one time for one person because they're doing multiple sessions with you, or what do you mean?
Yeah, so I charge an
Okay.
initial assessment, which is basically a 2 hour assessment of where they're at with their dog.
Okay.
Then I'll go away, I'll make a plan, I'll email that to them, I'll
Okay.
I'll walk them through it.
Yep.
And then some invite me back in where some will say, no, that's too expensive, and that's kind of where it finishes.
Okay. And so what do you charge for the initial assessment?
Is $400,
Okay, got it. And then what do you charge for a session after that?
250.
And so if we were to just ballpark it, you're saying that there was about 8 different people that turned into the $2,000 over the last 30 days. Was there if you were to kind of make an average number of sessions that each of those people were doing after the initial assessment?
I think there's probably only two people there that actually went forward with agreeing with the plan and going on a step-by-step basis rather than signing up for anything long term.
Okay, got it. So 2 out of 8 went forward, which is 75% of the people that you did an initial assessment with, they didn't carry on.
Correct.
Okay. Did they give you a reason?
Mm, they gave me excuses in
Okay.
terms of
What
what I
excuse did
think.
they give you?
Now's not the right time. They think their dog is too old. They don't think they're able to do this because as much as we're looking to change the behavior of a dog, we need to change the behavior of the handler. You know, they need to do things. It's not
Right.
just I can come in once or twice a week and
Okay.
change the life of this dog.
Okay.
They're gonna have to change what they do as well, and I think it makes them uncomfortable.
Okay. And you said that you think they're excuses. Why do you think they're just simply excuses?
I just don't trust what they say.
Okay.
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure why that is. You know, I try and talk to them about it. I try to drop my price because
Okay.
sometimes I think it's more of a price objection with them. But yeah, they just say no, it's not now. Now's not the right time. They don't necessarily give me a time for them to give them a follow-up call.
Okay.
And I'm kind of pushing that agenda to call them in a couple of weeks.
Okay. Got it. So to get the business to 5x to 7.5x, you need potentially some pricing changes, some pricing strategy. You need to have lead generation that is not generating excuse makers, and you need a higher volume of leads. Those are kind of the three things that we've covered thus far. Is that accurate?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would add in there that you feel is keeping you from 7xing the business?
No, well, I've seen a lot of content on YouTube. There's a lot of trainers that are becoming successful in that space. So being
Okay.
able to master YouTube and getting in there and taking advantage of some income stream that can generate as well as obviously an interest.
Okay. Yep.
But I've never done anything in that space either.
Okay. Have you done anything in business before? Any content
No,
creation? Any? Okay, no. So no previous
no.
business experience. This is your first rodeo for business. Okay. Now let's go back to you wanting to do this full time. Why do you want to do this full time?
Because to me it's my passion, you know. I'm in a
Okay.
job at the moment that I don't particularly enjoy, and I've kind of been sidetracked from my what I'd call my main work, because I've been trying to get this what I call a passion project up and running.
Okay. What are you doing for work full time?
I'm basically in corporate sales.
Okay. Corporate sales. And how long have you been doing that?
I've been in that industry for about 15 years.
Okay. And how long have you wanted to get out of that because you've not enjoyed it?
I'd say over the last 4.5 years.
Okay. And what don't you enjoy about it? Why for the last 4.5 years have you wanted to get out of that?
I'm not too sure if it's just because I've got this passion project and it's something that I really want to do that it's kind of diminished that role.
Okay.
But this is just what I would really like to do. I felt that I've put myself in a good position. You know, I've done all the training. I've been successful in my own right, and now I just need to find a way of making this work.
Okay. What do you think is the way to make it work? What do you think you need to find to make it work?
I need I need help.
Okay.
I need someone next to me to say, you know, this is how you work on a business side, and this is how we can um, get some more, you know, leads, how we can get you more people to talk to, which isn't basically me wasting money through social media ad spends.
Oh, okay. So you're wasting money on ad spend as well as not making the money that you want to be making. How much are you spending on ads on a monthly basis?
It's something that I was doing a number of months ago. I
Okay.
was spending about $1,000 a week at one
Week,
point
a
on
week.
ads, but yeah.
And what results did you get from that?
Oh, at the start, you know, I had someone next to me that said that they knew the social media space and how they
Okay.
could get ads working.
Right.
So we put a plan together and we said, yeah, let's do this. And it did bring in a lot of people that I could talk to, but they were either not contactable, they didn't realize what they were clicking on. Yeah, there was a number of excuses, but it didn't work.
Okay. So, and how many weeks did you do that for at $1,000 a week?
I did that for 2 months.
Okay. So you spent $8,000. Did you make any sales from the ads?
Not that I can say directly.
Okay.
Those months were better months. I was those months at the end of the year, I was probably bringing in around about 5,000 a month. But no, I wouldn't say that the ad spend was successful. I know it can be successful, but it just didn't work for us.
So it wasn't successful in terms of profitable because you spent 8,000 and you made 5,000, but it was 2.5 times the amount of income that you're generating now. Or am I missing something?
No, that's right. I
Okay.
don't I I I don't know if it's just because I was doing a little bit more in terms of advertising, so my name was getting out there more and people
Okay.
were coming through my website more, but yeah, obviously that ad spend on the face of it just did not work.
In terms of profitable, that makes sense. And so did you speak to that guy that you're working with and kind of ask him, hey, we're getting leads, but can you change something so they're actually qualified leads? Or what was kind of the conclusion of that relationship?
He did want to do it again. He wanted to do it again for another 2 months.
Okay.
Have more questioning when they click
Yep.
on that ad. So instead of it just coming straight through with the details, it would have a couple of questions to try and filter out the
Okay.
people that aren't interested. But I just wasn't in a position where I had the money to sign up for another 2 months again.
Okay. So it was just simply not having the money that was why you didn't give that another go.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, got it. Now, obviously, I don't want to waste your time. I'm sure you don't want to waste mine. Obviously, there would be a significant investment to work with us as a business coach to help you get the leads, to help you with your pricing, to make sure you don't get excuse makers, to basically just give you the help you need to scale a business. Are you in a position now financially where if we find at the end of this call things are a fit, that you could actually take action?
Personally, yes, I've got
Okay.
my savings. The
Okay.
business hasn't. But
Sure.
if I want this to work, I know I've got to put something in. And
Okay.
I'm at the
Cool.
point now where I either put something in or I kind of walk away from it.
Okay. Any particular reason that, given that you had a well, we could call it a bad experience with the previous guy, you spent $8,000. Any particular reason you're not willing to just walk away from this passion?
No, I still think it can work.
Okay.
I see people in the space around me and, they've been successful, but they've been doing it a long time. The word of mouth, the power that they have, and I'm starting out, so I need to be doing more than them.
Okay. You say they've been doing it a long time. You might know, you might not. How long do you think some of these people have been running their dog training business that have a successful dog training business?
Oh, I'd say 20 years and plus.
Okay. So, okay, fine. The reason I ask is even though you haven't got it to work because you haven't had the business help you need, you've been running this for 4.5 years. So it is a reasonable period of time to have not actually got to a point where the business is allowing you to accomplish your goal of going full time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, cool. I'm pretty clear on everything. Let me just make sure that we're on the same page. So you want to do this full time. You obviously aren't making the money to do it full time. You don't have the confidence that you'd be able to go all in and do it full time because you don't really know if it would work. You're not willing to give this up because it is your true passion. You've been in corporate sales 15 years. For the last 5 years, you're like, I don't enjoy this. I've got this passion. It's very helpful for people. It's something I'm trained at. It's something I've put the time and effort in. I want to do it. But the issue is that because you haven't had the help to do the business side of things, all of that dog training expertise that you have isn't translating into qualified leads that actually buy your product, that end up generating you the money that you can do this full time. You had to go on some paid ads, kind of worked, but not well enough that you would have carried on. And you're now in a position where even though it's your personal savings, you're willing to invest those personal savings to give this one last shot. Is that all accurate?
Yes, that's a good summary. That's accurate.
I noticed when I asked if that was accurate that you kind of smiled, you kind of laughed. Why is that?
I don't think I've really looked at it that the position the business is in is this bad. That's basically it. I thought I may have got a couple of issues, mainly just around finding leads, but when you put it like that, there's a lot more to do.
Okay. And having clarity on what there is to do, how does that make you feel?
Well, my heart rate's going up. So not particularly good if I'm honest. It feels
Okay.
like it's failing. I had a 5-year plan when I set out, and I ripped that one up maybe about 6 months ago because it was so far away. It was kind of demoralizing.
Okay. So from your side of things, you need business help. You've seen other dog trainers out there that have done this for 20 years. What was it that attracted you to us as far as being the people to give you the help that you need, especially given that you've worked with someone in the past that didn't work out? Was there anything that kind of gave you the using your word, the confidence that we could be the help you need?
It's your testimonials that
Okay.
I read that kind of gave me the confidence that you guys know what you're doing,
Okay.
and you specialize in this space, which is quite a niche area.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense. So you've seen people that have essentially, I know off the top of my head that we have people that have done this full time. They've left a corporate job. They were making 10 grand a month, 15 grand a month running their dog training business. And that gave you the confidence that we can help you out.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, makes sense. So the only thing that we haven't really dug a bit deeper into is you've been trying to do this full time for 4 or 5 years. It is your passion. And you're spending a lot of time having 15, 20 conversations with people. They do an initial assessment. 75% of people don't move forward. Having this, I guess we could say, this passion of yours just slowly dying, how is that impacting you?
I wouldn't go as strong as saying I get depressed, but
Okay.
it's having a notable effect on me in the house. I have quite aggressive mood swings
Okay.
because I feel like I've tried all the right avenues to make this work. I don't have the excuses where I haven't spent money on the business, I haven't spent money on advertising, I haven't spent money on, training myself in a business space. So I feel like I've done the right things. It's annoying that it hasn't worked.
Okay. Can I challenge you a little bit on that?
Okay.
If I'm understanding correctly, and please fill me in if I've missed something, over 4.5 years, the only business help that you've had was 8 weeks of marketing help. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, if you put it like that, yeah.
If I put it like what?
Well, I have reached out to a number of people that have run successful businesses you know, to get their ideas and their inputs. But that's mainly around planning and strategizing.
And how many of those, if any, did you hire? You paid the money to actually.
Oh, none, none,
Okay.
none.
Because I can tell that you're passionate about this, and that's great. I can tell you're willing to invest again. You don't want to give up. But if I'm being honest, if you know that the help you need was the business side of things, if we just calculate it out, 4.5 years times 52 weeks is 234 weeks. And then if we do 8 weeks out of 234 weeks, that is 3.5%. So what that means is that whilst you've truly wanted, or say you've truly wanted to do this full time, for 96.5% of the entire 4.5 years that you've run the business, you've been trying to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
96.5% of those 4.5 years, you say that you've done everything, and maybe you have done a lot of things on your end. But as you admit, you know dog training, you don't know business. And so if you really look at the maths and really look at it for what it is, do you think 96.5% of the entire time you've tried to have this as your full-time business, you have done everything you needed to do as far as getting the help you needed?
When you put it that way, no.
Okay.
I think if I knew, a couple of years ago that I'd be in this position after so long, I would have got the help sooner. I probably would have, reached out to someone that in this space or knows this space that can help me. But I just had the mindset that, I could do it. And when you put it like that, I wouldn't say I've wasted 5 years, but it's not far off.
Why do you think you still had the mindset that you could, and I mean this respectfully, that you could figure it out after 2 years of not figuring it out? Like, for a lot of people, 2 years of not figuring it out would probably be a turning point, not 4.5 years. So why do you
Mm.
think you still had that mindset of, I'll keep trying to figure it out after 2 years of not figuring it out?
I think after 2 years, it was a really hard time for me with
Okay.
trying to get this going. And I think my confidence, my motivation levels really dropped.
Okay.
So I wasn't quite sure if I would be able to do this. So I probably took my foot off the gas at kind of 2 years.
Okay. Where is that motivation level and that commitment to putting the foot fully on the gas now?
Oh, it's there. That's why I wanted to reach out to you guys and go, if I want this to work, now's the time.
Okay. So after 2 years, you took your foot off the gas, you lost motivation. We're now 4.5 years. What was the like recent turning point where your motivation just came back online and you were like, I have to give this everything I've got? What happened?
The money in the account for the business it's not wiped out, but it's at a minimal level, probably the lowest it's ever been. And I put quite a bit of money in at the start to get this going, where now it's at a point where I need to keep putting money in, and I just don't want to keep wasting money.
Okay. How much did you put in?
I started off with $20,000.
Okay. So you put $20,000 in. If I'm understanding correctly, unless you had like some, previous success in the business over the 4 years, that money has been diminishing at the pretty much the same rate over those 4 years. Is that accurate? Or it's like all of a
Yeah.
sudden it just dried up? Okay.
No, it's been dropping. There's been times where I had to put extra money in.
Okay. So is it literally just that you're looking at the bank account of the business and going, wow, it's basically zero again, even though month by month by month over the last 4 years, you've kind of been able to see the writing on the wall? You know, forgive me for being direct, but I kind of feel like there's maybe something else as to why now you've got that extra motivation.
The motivation's always been there. I think this has just been the prod to get me to reach out. The money in the accounts dropped below $1,000, and it's never been that low. So, the idea of doing this part time was to ensure that my wife didn't have to work. So she's been taking wages out of the business. So I need to keep putting money in. I don't want it to fail. I don't want to have to send my wife back to work. So that's the motivator for me.
Have you had that conversation with your wife? Hey, the money's under 1,000. I either need to figure this out or, I'm going to have to send you back to work, basically.
I think she kind of knows. She's seeing me spend more time in the house and not out with clients. So I think she knows that I'm struggling here.
Okay.
And she sees the mood swings as well. I'm not the confident, happy guy.
Okay. When you say mood swings, like, has there been any recent conflict with your wife from those mood swings?
I wouldn't say conflict. I think my wife is getting more vocal in the fact that, I don't seem to be a person that's particularly jovial or enjoyable to be around. She says I'm a lot quieter these days.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's probably or maybe just starting to wear me down a little bit,
A little bit, if I'm being,
or more
honest.
more than I'm aware, probably.
Okay. Is it more than you're aware, or is it more than you want to face, as in admit?
I know my situation that I'm in is obviously not good, but obviously in the last week or two, with having this realization that it's not going to work, I need to put some more money into the business. And reaching out to you guys, it's last resort steps.
Okay. I have to be a little bit assumptive given what you told me about your wife's side of the situation. Hey, you're spending more time at home. She notices you don't have clients. She knows you put money in the business. She knows you're not your happy self. I- How is your wife going to react to you putting more money in the business?
She wouldn't be happy, Josh.
Okay.
She's not particularly aware of times that I've done it previously.
Okay.
Yeah, she wouldn't be happy.
So how are you going to move on that?
I need help. I need help to get this going. I need to, it's not going to be an overnight thing, but if I believe that what you guys can do can really help, and I think it can, and I've got the expertise and I've got the motivation to make it work,
Yep.
and then I do need to have a real conversation with my wife to tell her the situation I'm in.
Okay.
I need to put some money into the business short term. I do know this, but like I say to you, I want to work with you guys, and I have the motivation there to make this work.
I can see that. I can hear that, and I can hear it even more when you're basically saying, if I understand that respectfully to your wife, this is your passion, and you are not willing to not give it another go. What I just want to make sure that we have alignment on is, let's say that we work together, you invest in us, we invest in you, we help you build this business full time. There will be a period of time, like, where, you might not see immediate results because we're building everything out. And during that time, either your wife doesn't know that you've invested in the business, or she finds out you've invested the business. Either way, there's going to be a kind of an undercurrent of, let's just say, something not great. How are you going to manage that over the coming weeks and months?
I haven't thought about it,
Okay.
and I think I'll just have to address it step by step. Yeah, I don't I don't want to be in I don't want to close the door on this and then in a few years' time have regrets because I didn't reach out for that help.
Makes total sense. I'm 100% clear on why you're not going to close the door, because you don't want the regrets having never truly got the business. I mean, if I'm being honest with you, we probably wouldn't be on this call if a year ago you'd have actually got the business help you really needed, or 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. The main reason, from at least from my side, why you're in this situation is 97% of the time of running this business, you haven't had business help. I'm clear on all of that. I just want to make sure that if we bring you on as a client, and let's say your wife finds out that you spent this money, that you are going to be, let's say, steadfast enough that you'll keep pushing through, because otherwise it will be a lose-lose situation for both of us. Your wife's going to be annoyed, you might back out of the program, we then can't help you grow the business. So I just want to make sure before we go any further that you're certain you can push through that, because it sounds like you're basically saying, I'll probably not tell her, but there's a possibility that she finds out. And so are you 100% sure that you're committed enough to just push through that, so that you can give this passion project, the foot on the gas that it really needs to turn into something full time?
Yeah, for sure. I'm ready. I want to sit down with you guys, work on a plan and get it going. I do need to have the conversation with my wife. It's not that I want to hide anything from her or anything like that. I just want to have the confidence that this is going to work, and basically say to her, look, this is what we're going to do. And, a year's time, 6 months, a year's time, we're going to be successful here.
Okay, let's just clarify that then, because before it sounded like you were saying you've made investments without telling your wife. Are you saying now that if you made another investment, you want to tell your wife in advance? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I can't.
Okay.
And if I'm going to put a significant amount of money into this,
Yep.
I can keep doing little cash injections and that's okay for me.
Sure.
But if I'm going to put significant, capital into this and sit down and put a business plan together, then of course I need to tell her and have that discussion with her.
Perfectly fine. What we would do then is, I've got 2 pages of notes of what you've got going on in the business, why you want to do this, why it hasn't worked. Quite frankly, you just haven't had the business support that you needed. At this point, the best thing for all three of us, you, your wife, and us, would be to have another call tomorrow with your wife on the call. I will run her back through with you on the call everything that we've gone through. And then together, we'll have that conclusive conversation where she can add any information on her side as far as the data on what's been going on. And then I'll take both of you through what we've got going on over here, so that she can be present and she can ask any questions, given that this time around you want to bring her into the fold. There's no point me, taking you through what we've got going on over here, you passing it back to your wife, then she has questions, or, there was a miscommunication. The best thing to do is to have all three of us on a call tomorrow, and we'll just figure this all out together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that work for you?
It makes me feel a bit uncomfortable.
Okay. Why is that?
She doesn't necessarily know how bad things have been.
Okay.
So I don't particularly want to keep facing it myself, but I don't particularly want her to hear it
Makes total
as
sense.
such.
Well, you can do whatever you want, Alex. We can move forward on this call and you cannot tell your wife until you get the result. Or if you want to have a conversation with your wife, how fair would it be to have a conversation with your wife when you're giving her half of the information? You either need to
Yeah, I
give
get
her
the point.
sorry, you don't get the point.
No, I get the point.
Oh, you get the
I
point.
get the
Okay.
point.
So,
It's probably more of an ownership and an accountability point on my side that I need to have an honest discussion with her, and she needs to understand how
well, you
things
don't,
have been.
no, what I'm saying is you don't need to do that. You need to pick one or the other. You either take 100% ownership of this situation and taking action without involving your wife in the decision. You take 100% ownership, or you share the ownership. But if you share the ownership, then everything needs to be shared. All the truth, all the data, her being on board, you being on board. It needs to be an open conversation with everything being aired. Or you don't do that and you just say, no, Josh, I'll just do it on my own. I'll come in, I'll deal with everything on my side. I'll be responsible for the result. And then you just tell your wife once you've got a $15,000 a month dog training business. But you can't have half and half. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
You either
I
take the ownership yourself or you have an open conversation. So I'm not deciding that for you. Which one of those do you want to do?
with how uncomfortable I feel right now, I'd rather just go ahead while we're on this call now and
Okay. And
get
so,
it going. And then I've made that commitment.
okay. Are you 100% sure?
100% sure.
Okay, cool. I'm just out of curiosity, given that it was different to what you said 5 minutes ago, what shifted that for you?
How uncomfortable I felt
Okay.
with her, particularly finding out everything. I don't want her to think that I'm a failure. I don't want her to think that, I've done things that haven't worked. I haven't asked or done the right things previously, which is why I'm in this position now.
Makes total sense. All right. I'm clear on everything. Your business makes about $2,000 a month right now. 75% of the people you do an initial consultation with don't move forward, which means you're not having the right people and you're also not having enough people. You only had 8 people in the last month that you did the initial consult with. You need your business to get up to $10,000 to $15,000 a month so that you can do this passion full time. You want to get out of corporate sales. You've been trying to do that for 5 years. You put $20,000 into the business. You do not want your wife to have to go back to work, which is another reason that you want to do this full time. But because 97% of the time of you trying to get this business working full time, you have just been trying to figure it out on your own. You don't have the confidence and you don't know that it will actually even work. Big part of that is because a couple of years ago, you kind of frankly took your foot off the gas and lost motivation. You really want this to work as well because you don't want your wife to see you as a failure. And at the moment, while she's not seeing you as a failure, she's certainly not seeing you as the happy guy that you used to be. You're spending a lot of time at home, not out there with clients. So yeah, really, you need the business side of things as far as the help, so that you never have the regret of thinking that you closed the door on this business quite simply because you never got the business help that you truly needed to make this work full time. Is that all accurate? Did I miss anything?
No, you've not missed anything. That's that's a good summary.
Okay. Is there anything you want to add? Okay.
I think we've covered it all. I think
Okay.
we've covered it all in depth, to be fair.
One final question. You said you don't want your wife to think of you as a failure, which is kind of like future. Do you feel that she's thinking and feeling that now?
Probably. I'd say yes.
Okay.
I'd say yes.
Okay. How much longer do you not want to get the business side of help that you do need so that you can do this full time and never have to send your wife back to work and no longer have her feeling, no longer have yourself feeling like your wife feels you're a failure for never getting this business working full time? How much longer do you want to be in that position?
No longer. No longer. It has to change now.
Cool. And then I would pitch you. How do you
I was
feel,
trying to
Alex?
make a story. I was trying to think of a story, but my heart rate went through the roof. I got sweaty hands.
Why is that?
I don't know. I felt so uncomfortable.
In a bad way?
I, I don't think it was a particularly nice feeling, and I
What
was
I mean
trying to
by
think in my
bad?
mind, okay, how will this story go? And then I kind of had bullet points in my mind around ad spend, wanting to retire, make sure the wife doesn't have to go back to work. And then when we was getting into the story about how much the wife actually knows, and the realization of having her sit next to me and having to listen to all of that, if it was my story, it'd be an awful feeling. So that's why I was like, no, no, we cannot have her on this call. I need to make that decision now. So yeah, I'm just waiting for my heart rate to calm down a little bit. But no, that was awesome. That was awesome.
What was awesome about it?
I felt like you had me like this on a wall. Your arm was across my chest, and I was there, and I wanted to get away, and there was times where you let me off, and we could talk easily again from my point of view. But then you put me up again, and I just want I when you said get the wife on the call, I was like, I felt really up against the wall. I was like, no, no, we'll make that decision now. So that was it's I've seen comments, and I've obviously heard people do role plays and be the prospect, and they feel it, and I go, oh yeah, it sounds in your words woo-woo-ish.
Mm,
But it's true. You really feel it. You really feel against you're up against the wall, and you need to make that change.
mm. And I know you were playing a prospect, but do you feel like in the playing prospect position, that feeling or that way that I ran the discovery, do you feel like that would have served you? Do you feel it would have been the best for the prospect?
Well, he's obviously in a really bad decision, in a really bad position, and he's obviously at a point where if he does walk away from this, his wife is going back to work, his passion and his dream hasn't worked, and potentially in 5 years' time, he's going to have a lot of regret because he had an opportunity where he could afford it, he could get some expertise, and he didn't take it. He
Yep.
was in a position where he could make that decision, but he would have walked away, and I he would have regretted it in the long term. So the right thing for him was was to take it. He was in the right position to make sure that his life was going to change quite a bit with his wife going back to work and things like that. So
Yep.
yeah, awesome.
Great prospect, Alex. All right, Jay, I know you said you were stuck at the beginning, so I just went for it. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind at all. Yeah, because at the beginning, when everyone's typing their business in the chat, it's like picking on the guy, like everyone raise your hand, and then the one guy that doesn't raise his hand, I'm picking you. So I got in here, I'm like, oh, shit, here we go. But yeah, I appreciate you picking me and bringing me on here because I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna listen in today and I'm just gonna, take notes on what they're saying, but actually like bring me on and like putting me, you know, bring my feet to the fire and just like make it happen. That almost was in synchronicity with a lot of stuff I'm dealing with right now, of like just like taking action and not overthinking it.
Nice. 100.
So I had a major breakthrough just like on this call, sitting by and listening, because I'm starting off the conversation. I'm like, I think I'm asking the right questions, but I'm like, where am I gonna get to on this call? Like,
Yep.
because he's playing a prospect and he's obviously qualified. We're doing a role play, potentially like he's gonna close. So I'm like, okay, he's gonna close at the end of the call. What's the whole call gonna look like? I'm trying to wrap my whole head around what the whole conversation is gonna look like. And it's just not, with how deep you got at the end, it's just you can't even wrap your head around that and put it into any particular question or script. Like there's no question that I could have asked. Like when he's bringing up his wife, like most closers are gonna sit there and go, oh, this is going to be a wife objection. I've got to pre-handle this. How do I eliminate the wife portion out of it? But you were completely detached from needing to, oh, I got to eliminate this and just let him take care of it himself.
Yep.
And that just that was really exciting to watch. I was like I was trying to keep my smile down so I'm not distracting anybody. But yeah, that was great.
Why was that an excitement that you felt that you hadn't felt before, it seems, in sales? Why was that exciting for you?
I'm super, super turned off by traditional sales. It's one of the reasons I didn't want to get into sales in the first place. I hate
Okay.
salespeople or
Okay.
the stereotypical
Yep.
salespeople. So every kind of advice that I've gotten that just reminds me of somebody I've been on the phone with in the past or that has been trying to push something onto me is incredibly hard for me to say on a sales call because I'm like, oh, I hate me right now. Like I'm getting myself frustrated by even saying like I know how the prospect is gonna feel when I ask this leading question. Like
Mm,
what if something doesn't like change 6 months from now? I'd be like, come on, dude. So
yeah.
when I just see an authentic conversation happening and the prospect is fully in the conversation, there's no way he's just gonna go, what's the price? In the middle of his feet being held to the fire. It's like he
Right.
said, it's like he's got a, whatever
Elbow
you called
across
it,
the neck. Yeah.
elbow across the neck. It's like there's no way he's gonna jump out at you because he knows
Yeah.
this is serious.
That's a
Well,
good
I'd say one thing, Jay. And when I said, yeah, I'll put my hand up to be a prospect and we'd go through it, I was like, oh, yeah, cool. This will be good. And then when Josh said, oh, yeah, can I just jump in and take over for a second? I thought, oh, there'll be a few questions here. But I was going, get off the call, Josh. Get off the call. Get Jay back in.
one. Yeah. Nice work, guys. All right.
I feel for my
Everybody in the
wife. She's asleep, so she keeps hearing her name popping up in conversation. She'll be like, what's going on?
Yeah. Guys, anyone in the chat, put your hand up if you have something you want to come up and share. A question or a takeaway, put your hand up in the chat and let's go through anybody else's big takeaways from that call. It's not often that I'll do the whole role play, so I'm hoping that some of you learned a few things from that. Anybody got anything they want to share? Demario, Emil, Faith, Ivan, Jordan, Luca, Max, and Big Sam. All right, Ivan's coming up. What's going on, brother?
Let's
Oh,
see.
there you go.
Cool. You guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
we
sir.
can hear you.
Amazing. Yeah, well done, guys. Really, really fun to watch because this was an identical type of prospect that I get to happen a lot of the times, like already a few years into business, not anything working out, still in corporate. So really interesting to see. Biggest thing that I really got from it was, first of all, the speed of just data collection, just in like 3 minutes, gathering everything that you needed from the whole business to the 97% of, oh no, that wasn't it. Like the people, 75% not doing any other consults, really seeing the revenue, what's all going on. And when you add that, just moving into the importance of why you actually wanted to do that, and it just really felt like all his answers were more powerful because you just showed to him how of a bad situation his business actually was. So it made a
Yeah.
lot of sense. But the biggest thing that really stood out to me was just you asking about or pre-handling objections. Just when the finance is really simply saying, hey man, so if we get to the end of this call and we're fit, like how are you gonna do it financially? If the business is at the point where it's at right now, or hey, you've had a bad experience, what are you gonna do moving forward with that experience? You just simply asked it. And I thought of all the ways I've had this so many times where I had to like completely handle these objections in the end and it was going back and forward and it was just like one question on it and that's
Yep.
it. So really
Massive.
interesting.
It's so much easier, guys, to quote unquote pre-handle the objections, which I don't even view it as pre-handling. I just view it as I'm still in the discovery. I'm just still having a conversation. You said the business is making no money. I've spent money on the business. It kind of didn't really work out. So it's like, well, how are you going to make that decision again? I'm just curious. And the big difference between doing it in the discovery versus pre-handling slash objection handling is the vibe. If you're handling it as an objection at the end of the call, or if you're pre-handling it, it feels like you're trying to close someone. Whereas if you're just curious and you're just asking, okay, well, you said this, so what about this? they don't feel like you're trying to tie them down or close them. And that detachment, as Jay said, that is what closes people, guys. It's the energy of the detachment. It's not the fancy tie down or the fancy word drag. It's just genuinely really not caring about the prospect, caring about them making the best decision, but not caring about the outcome. It will be what it will be. Plus, from experience, I know that 97% of your prospects will buy if you actually do the right thing. In other words, in inbound sales, most of your prospects are not unqualified. It's just you're not good enough at sales. So if you have that belief, plus you combine that with the detachment, you'll close almost everybody. That's what you should be thinking, guys, is I've got 100 calls over the next 4 weeks. Realistically, guys, you should be aiming for, how do I close 90 of them? How do I close 95 of them? Those numbers seem crazy when you're getting into sales and you're learning, but really that is just the maths, guys. It's inbound sales, guys. It's not outbound sales. Most of your leads are qualified. Even if worst case scenario, it's on financing or payment plan, they want what you sell and they want it now. That's why they booked an inbound call on their calendar, their time, and they turned up to the fucking call. Okay. So you should be thinking, how do I close 90% of my leads, 95%? All right. Anybody else got anything they want to add? Demario, Emil, Faith, Jordan, Luca, Sam, Demario. All right. Let's bring Demario up. Guys, if you're on these trainings and you don't have anything to add, that worries me that you aren't picking up what I'm putting down. Demario. The suspense.
My bad. It was just taking a long time to load. But first and foremost, amazing. Grateful that you just started doing these this week of the role plays. Very grateful. The whole thing, it was just like, you know, they say sometimes in basketball, poetry in motion. It's exactly what it was. It was like I can visually see the parts that you were at, like the intro, the current situation, the commitment, you know, the impact, but your tempo and placement of things was just like perfect. Like there was one point that you asked him like, oh, what impact is that having on you? And like it just stopped him in his tracks because you had enough data and stuff to ask that question. A lot of times I'll see myself asking these questions without the what behind it, and really just kind of the question not even having that effect on the person. So I think just that. But one thing that I think you had on your pre-call checklist was like serve at my highest level. And I literally can just feel that energy coming out of everything that you were doing. Just from the point of, you got to the point that you kind of summarized a little bit, and then you guys were able to jump into a whole nother layer of like talking about the wife, talking about all this stuff. And there's, at the level I'm at right now, I wouldn't have gotten any of that. Right. And that was like the stuff needed for this call to close. This was like the way that you, again, it's not pre-handling, you're just having a conversation. The way you talked away the objection of the wife, like I saw him visually in his mind go, the pain of her being here is way too much. Whatever the price is, it doesn't matter, as long as she's not here right now. And just feeling that was just like, that's real. So yeah, I think it was just a lovely, lovely performance, obviously.
I appreciate that, brother. Yeah, great points. Guys, no question, no matter how powerful it seems, is going to have any power if you don't gather the data first. And there were points in that role play where I was like, I need to get my powerful questions in here because otherwise I'm not going to close this guy. If I don't know the why, if I don't know the impact, if I don't know the true depth of the pain, he's not going to buy anything. But I kept keeping those questions up my sleeve because I was like, I really don't feel like I have kind of the grounding of the data to be able to deliver those questions. And so in that role play, my what impact is this having question was actually very late for me. Normally I'd ask that 5 minutes earlier, but I'm not going to use those questions because it's, you know, I'm at that question on the script, so I better use it, or I've been running the call for this amount of time, so I need to get into it. No, the questions don't have a fixed time or a fixed place that you place them. They are weapons that you use when the opening is there. And if the opening isn't there, you keep fighting. It's like a boxer. You keep moving around until you make the opening. If the opening isn't there, you can't ask those questions. They just won't have any effect. And as I've said before, every time you ask a question, that doesn't land or seems stupid or seems redundant or kind of has, it falls flat, you lose the trust of the prospect. The trust just goes down. So if you try asking a what impact question before you've got enough base to ask that question, you'll just completely ruin the trust of the prospect. And then you can't fix it. It's too late. The prospect knows what you're doing. You've telegraphed. They don't believe you. They don't want to answer your questions. They don't want to tell you the real truth. So you've got to really understand this new mindset of I ask questions to get what I need and excavate what I need. Once I've got what I need, I can then go in for my uppercut knockout questions. Okay. That was one thing that Demario said. Second one, and I don't mean this to sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet, but he said poetry. Real sales guys should feel like poetic. It should feel like a really authentic, very, very personal conversation. You should feel like if Alex was a real prospect, in 6 months' time, it should feel like I could call up Alex and be like, hey, Alex, it's Josh from blank, blank, blank business. And he would be like, oh, hey, man, how's it going? As if we're friends, as if we've had a connection one time in our life that I could call that dude up in 2 years' time. I guarantee you, I could go through every single person that I've ever spoken to when I was on the dating offer, when I was on the crypto offer, when I showed up as my best self. There were times where I was just off the ball, and I could call them up 4 years later now, and they would all have a conversation with me. And they would actually be happy that I called them. Oh, hey, dude, how's it going? I remember our conversation. Blank, blank, blanks happened. My kids have gone off to uni. They would literally just tell me about their fucking life because it was a real, authentic experience that we had. Another one that Demario said is the layers or the levels were needed to close the sale. Yes, guys, I do not move out of discovery until I know I'm fucking closing that bitch. I do not get out of the discovery until this is going to fucking close. If it doesn't close, I'd be just surprised. I'd be like, wow, that was unexpected, to the point where I would have bet money that it would have closed. Sometimes I would have been wrong, but I would never move out the discovery until I could place a massive bet and put all my fucking chips in that it's going to close. And there are points in that call where I got everything I needed at layer one. And I was like, okay, this is good, but I need to change gear here. Like I just need more. This guy is not going to close. And so I would summarize what I had and then go back into the discovery because I just knew it wasn't going to close the first time or the second time on layer one or layer two. And that's what Demario is explaining, that I would just keep going down and down until I was like, okay, this is enough. This guy's going to buy now. Okay, so great summaries there. All right, who else wants to come up? I think Jordan said he did have something he wants to add, so I'm going to bring Jordan up. Great stuff, Demario. Great summary. All right, what's going on?
So the biggest thing that stands out to me, I think the principle is just that the prospect has all the answers, which helps so much as the closer, right? Because when you're trying to think about a script or like pushing them a certain way, it almost feels like you're trying to shove them through a door. But when you truly trust that the prospect has the answers and you just go to their mental model once you grab the data, like, so what are your thoughts on that? How do you feel about that? What's your view on that? How are you going to manage that? It not only helps them in their commitment because they're not going to fight against their own ideas, but as the closer, you just feel like, I know if I do a weightlifting analogy here, it's kind of like the spotter that keeps trying to lift all the weight, right? You're like taking it away from them. So they get no muscle development. And then you're really tired as a spotter and you're not really getting any muscle development because you can't build muscle as a spotter. And so both of you kind of leave underperformed.
Great analogy.
And that's what helps. That's what stands out to me the most is we always talk about detachment like you don't care. Another thing you said one time was practice asking open-ended questions to work on your detachment. And I've done that like as a parent with my wife. And that's helped me significantly because I didn't realize how often I was trying to lead it a certain direction. And if you just let it flow, because all the answers are in them, they get not only to the place you hope they get to, but their commitment and ownership and willingness to stay there because it was their own idea is significantly different.
Yeah. Another thing that was all spot on. One other addition is a big thing that closers say they struggle with is closer burnout. After a few weeks or a few months or half a year or a year of closing, they're like, oh, I'm kind of tired of closing. Yeah, because you're the spotter trying to lift the fucking weight for the prospects. Of course you're tired. I 5 years on, I'm still loving closing. I could hop back on the phones now and close. I could take 9 hours of back-to-back calls a day, 7 days a week, and I would be loving it because I know I'm not fucking doing the work. The prospect's doing all the work for me. So that's why closers get burned out. And burned out meaning they get burned out of the actual process of sales, like, oh, it's tiring to take sales calls. And they get to a point where they're like, I don't want to be in sales anymore. Oh, I've been doing this a year and a half, I'm done. It's like, no, like it's probably the best way to make a bunch of money unless you want all of the headache and the stress of running a business, which for 99% of people, closing is way better than running a business, guys. Way fucking better. If you can make 50 grand a month closing, no expenses, no staff, no meetings, none of that bullshit, just make 50 grand a month being a closer, guys. Like it's way easier and way better. So just know that you're using a methodology that won't burn you out. Yeah, go on, Jordan.
And just from the spiritual side of things, you talk about, the universe, the 4D. I personally have a big belief in God and Christianity in and of myself. And if you look back at the very beginning, the first gift that God gave us is agency, which is the ability to choose between right and wrong. And anytime we telegraph or push someone, we're essentially robbing them of their agency, which is actually how the devil came to be the devil. He wanted to take away man's agency. So it's really interesting that really one of the biggest differences between force and power, right? The devil is trying to force us to choose good or basically have no decision, which means no growth, no commitment, no ownership. But here we are on the other side. Every time we do that, we're acting like him and then wondering why it's not closing when we're taking someone else's agency to choose from themselves, the first gift that God gave us, right? So I just think that, that understanding of it, like, man, every time I do that, I'm robbing them of their agency, the first gift God gave us. It just helped me detach, not from a place of not caring, but because I care to honor that first gift, it just helps significantly. So
that's
awesome.
A beautiful explanation. Absolutely love that. One other bit I wanted to add is Jordan was saying the prospects have all the answers. You have to truly trust this. That is all spot on. One additional layer deeper than that, guys, is when Alex said, oh, I'm going to have to ask my wife first. Most of you are thinking, oh, fuck, that means I'm not going to close the sale on this call. Going to have to take him through my pitch. Then he's going to go and ask his wife. Then we have to get back on another call. I trust that the prospects have the answer, but even deeper than that, I trust that all of the objections are bullshit. In other words, I had the assumption that if I just dig a few more layers deeper into him needing to run it by his wife first, that will just disappear. So remember that there's different levels to this, guys. One is the prospects have the answers to your data gathering. Another layer is the prospects have the answers to any of their reasons to not buy right now. They will unsell themselves on not buying right now, and they'll just buy right now. But you just got to go deeper into it. Okay, cool. So, we would do this, 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 and this. And then there was one thing, by the way, which so many of you would miss, which was I said, okay, we'll just have a call tomorrow with you and your wife. And he was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I asked him, it was twice. I can't remember the way I worded it, but the first time I said, does that make sense? Or I think I said, are you okay with that? And he said, yes. He was like, yep, I'm okay with that. But there was like something about it, to be honest, Ivan, it wasn't even his facial expression or his laughing. And he was being a prospect, by the way. It was the energy. I was like, energetically, something feels off here. Like I didn't visually see anything or hear his tonality or see his body language. I was just like, I kind of feel like there's something missing here. You will not notice those things, guys, if you're not tuned in. If you haven't silenced your mind, if you haven't read your pre-call checklist, if you haven't cleaned your fucking bathroom, if you haven't worked on your personal relationships, you just won't notice the energetic signals because it wasn't visual. It wasn't his facial expression, Ivan, although that would have probably made it an additional bonus that he had a facial expression. I didn't even notice that. I just like, I kind of feel like he's not okay with this. It was like an intuition. And the crazy thing is, guys, I had an intuition whilst Alex is pretending to fucking be a prospect. He's not even a real prospect. And I'm like, my intuition is just telling me that he's not okay with that. It proves the point, guys, that it's just truly tuning into the moment, even if it's a fake role play moment. And I was like, are you okay with that, or whatever I said? And he was like, well, I feel super uncomfortable with that. Okay, well, what do you want to do then? Well, and then he's trying to say, well, I guess I have to tell my wife. I'm like, no, you don't. You can do this or you can do this. You can choose whichever one you want. I don't mind. Which one do you want to do? And he just unsold himself out of his own objection. Yeah. But the
Can I say
key
something,
was
Josh?
noticing the intuition. Absolutely, Alex. Go for it.
I've been working on my pre-call checklist, and yesterday I had on there, I wrote down, I've been brainstorming, and I put one point on there, which was to stethoscope the soul.
Wow.
And you really did it. You listen to the words, but you really listen to what the meaning is behind them. Like, yes, I was feeling uncomfortable about my wife potentially finding out that the business is a failure, but you really, at that time, I thought it's like your hand went inside me and grabbed hold onto something, and that was a turning moment. And like you say, that's playing a prospect. So I'm definitely going to keep the stethoscope the soul on that checklist for sure. That was powerful, man.
100%. I don't know if you've come across it yet, but the Underground Mentor calls it, looking into someone's soul. So like you said, reaching your hand into their soul, or just being able to see into their soul. That was one of the fundamental foundational principles that the Underground Mentor taught me is, if you really master this, the questions, the conversation, and your energy, the internal mastery and the script of selling, you are looking into people's soul at a level that very few people, if anyone in their life, has ever been able to do for them. And if you are able to show up in someone else's life at that level, they almost buy from you out of, I don't want to say obligation, but almost like they feel like they've met someone that's so special and significant in their life that they just buy from you almost out of like celebrity status. Like, oh wow, I just met this person. I've never spoken to someone like this that's ever been able to see inside my soul. I want to continue my engagement with them. I want to continue my relationship with them. I'm going to buy the program, even though you're not the coach inside the program. It's like people misunderstand what selling actually is. Oh, it's the fucking pre-handling the objections. No, oh, it's my pitch or it's my offer. It's like, no, not really. People buy the feeling of the experience that you made them feel on the call more than your offer, more than your pre-handling objections. They buy, you gave them a once in a lifetime experience. And they're like, wow, fuck this. I've never had a conversation like this. I've never felt this feeling. It's like, I love what Jordan was saying. There's another word that I came across quite a number of times when I was digging into stuff about God. And it was the word awe, A-W-E, which is when you're ever in the presence of God or some type of godlike energy, the feeling that you will feel is the feeling of awe. That is the presence of God in your life. If you can give a prospect that feeling of like my mind's just blown with awe of the depth of the conversation we had, the authenticity of the conversation you had, people, it's a godlike moment that you just had that connection with someone on a call, and they'll buy from you almost like they've just seen the most beautiful sunset in their entire life for the first time. They're like, wow, I'm just in shock and awe. People just don't understand what actually selling people is all about. So
can I add something onto that?
Go for it, Jay. Absolutely.
I heard this quote one time. It was like, if you look small to God, you'll look big to others. Like if you stand and like give God the glory and like basically let go of yourself and be in awe of him or the universe or whatever you believe in, like people will see that in you.
100%.
So just having like that 4D connectivity. I had another thing to add actually. It's not stethoscope to the soul. I was thinking of adding to my pre-call checklist, and I'm trying not to swear as much, but like just adding I don't give a fuck, because I feel like when I'm at my best, that's the mentality I have.
Okay.
But at the same time, I do care about the prospect. But
So then you have to ask yourself discovery questions of what part of it do you not give a fuck about? versus what part do you give a fuck about? And just keep going deeper and deeper until you're able to separate what those two things are and then write the final thing on your pre-call checklist. Just dig deeper and deeper and deeper into it.
Okay.
What I would say, Jay, is I feel quite honored that I've actually had the time to sit in front of Josh and have this as kind of a one-on-one, it felt like. But it was like, I don't think, from my feeling, it didn't feel like Josh was particularly relaxed. He felt invested in me.
Uh-huh.
He was trying to help me, but it certainly came from, a very non-judgmental place. He was just going, "Oh, okay, so why did you say that?" And not letting me off the hook, making me own what I was saying. So I've been, really working on this pre-call checklist, but to sit in this seat, I now have that 100% clear idea of what those final missing pieces was. This was the penny dropping moment. Yeah, I should bottle this feeling up and sell it.
I'm so
For
happy.
sure.
I'm so happy for you, Alex. It's really wonderful to see the experience that you've had being a prospect. It really is. Really is.
Yeah, it's amazing to sit on this side of the seat. And like we say, it's a fictional story. It's make believe, but still felt really real.
Guys,
So
I
thanks,
think
Josh.
it's my pleasure, Alex. I think we should end on that note. Guys, it's always a pleasure. Every single day this week, we have role plays. Apart from Wednesday, we have our normal Wednesday call. It's always a pleasure, guys. If you truly commit to mastering this high ticket selling, the life of your dreams is on the other side. And I know that sounds far-fetched, guys, but the person you can become, the experiences you can have with the conversations with the prospects, the money you can make, the impact you can have in the world, there really isn't anything that you can't have by mastering sales. Everything you want, from the spiritual, the emotional, the character, personal development, the money, the dream life. Commit to this journey, stay on the journey, mentorship, massive action, time, and you'll be able to have the life that you truly want. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Later, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Josh.
My pleasure.
Cheers, Jay.
All right, there you have it. Another high ticket sales role play. It doesn't matter what industry, it doesn't matter what offer this role play was about, or any of the other role plays in the YouTube channel that I have. What matters is the level that we are going to as closers inside the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. We broke down the stereotypical hatred for sales, hatred for salespeople. I hate me right now is what I think it was Jay said at the end of that video, because if you sound like a cheesy, tacky, desperate loser of a salesperson, you won't like yourself. That is why most people don't see sales, as in you don't see sales, as a profession worth mastering. Well, as I said at the end of the training, if you truly master this profession and you do so in a way where you feel aligned, where you feel proud of who you've become as a salesperson, you will make a shit ton of money. We broke that down. We broke down how prospects have all of the answers. That is something that you're never going to discover if you're reading scripted questions or you're not doing the internal work as well. You will never find that your prospects have all the answers because you haven't realized that you need to do your own inner work. And if you don't realize that, then you won't realize that your prospects also need to have agency, as Jordan said, over their own life. Are you taking agency over your life? If the answer is no, then your prospects are not going to show up taking agency over their life. We then went deeper on peeling back the layers, getting to the truth, going levels and levels and levels into the discovery. That is what happens when you learn scriptless selling and when you see the level that you can truly get to as a salesperson. You'll never see that doing tonality training, memorizing objection word tracks, or reading a fucking sales script. Then we looked at data gathering so that the powerful questions like why or why now or what impact actually land. And this is why two salespeople can say the same questions and one gets a different result and it's not because of the tonality, because one salesperson has actually dug into the truth before asking that question and another salesperson has just run through their basic script. We then went into listening to the meaning behind the words. If you truly want to understand people, and if you want to make a lot of money in sales, you have to understand people. You have to understand the meaning behind people's words, not just asking questions and listening, but understanding human beings. You will never get to understanding human beings if all you're doing is running the same scripted discovery every single time. You have to train with someone like myself, where we actually teach you how human beings think, feel, and operate, and that is learning the true universal psychology, philosophy, sociology of human beings, which is what we teach inside the mastermind. Sales intuition. Wow. The amount of deals that I've closed and the amount of money I've made by developing my own intuition. Again, you're not going to learn that if you're reading from a script or memorizing canned lines and not doing the internal work that you truly need to do. Sales intuition is, I can't even put it into words what a gift it is once you start to develop your sales intuition, because you'll be able to truly connect with prospects and not let them off the hook when you think you've got enough and your intuition would have told you, actually, there's another layer here. We then got into the true way to pre-handle objections. I don't like dealing with objections at the end of the call. I don't deal with objections at the end of the call. I made $100,000 a month in commissions not handling objections. I also didn't do typical scripted pre-handling of objections. I just showed you there in that call how a true master closer would pre-handle any objection that would come up. And then, as Demario said, poetry. The poetry of mastering sales at the highest level. Having a real conversation, a once-in-a-lifetime conversation with your prospect, that is how you never get bored of sales. That is how you master closing and communication, and that is how you build the life of your dreams. Now, if you want to know more about scriptless selling, there'll be a video up here. And if you want to know more about the scriptless selling in action, there'll be more sales role plays here. However, if you are at the point now where you've had enough of my free content and you want to get on the inside of the Unicorn Closer Mastermind because you are truly committed to going to the next level, there is a link below this video to join us. Get on these role plays. Get inside the mastermind. Get around closers that are making 2x, 3x, 5x, even 10 times the amount of money that you're making every single month in commissions. Not because they're smarter than you, not because they have a higher IQ than you, but because they put in massive action with a mentor inside a mastermind where the level of standard and excellence that we expect, which will push you to that level, is far greater than the level that you're pushing yourself to right now. If that is something that you are finally ready to take action on, then do it right now. Show up as the prospect that you want to see on your calls. Decisive, quick decision, powerful decision. Take action right now, and I'll see you on the inside of the mastermind real soon.